Am I the jerk for asking my wife to quit her job after her boss tried to kiss her? So I am a 24-year-old male and my wife is a 25-year-old female. She is my high school sweetheart. We've been together since we were 18 and went through uni together too. We were married last year and overall everything is going really well. This year, she started a job in a fashion store. It's her first job ever, and she really enjoys it there. So she frequently goes to after-work dinners and drinks with her coworkers, most of which are male. I'm fine with that, of course. I fully trust her, and I know she would never want to cheat on me. Also, she always tells me everything and doesn't leave out details. I know all of her coworkers, including her boss. I've met them a few times before. So the other day she tells me that after one of those evenings out with her coworkers, she was walking with her boss back to the store to pick something up around 4 a.m. and he tried to kiss her. Of course, she pulled away right away. I believe her. And she went home to me to tell me straight away. Of course I'm freaking out. I don't like this one bit. Her boss knows me. He knows we are married. So the next morning, I gathered my thoughts and told her straight up I would like her to quit her job. I don't feel comfortable with her working there anymore. She says I'm overreacting. She would never do anything with him and she loves her job and enjoys getting paid, of course. She's not even considering looking for something else. She really wants to stay there and I feel super uncomfortable. She said she wouldn't go for drinks alone with her boss anymore, but honestly, that's not enough for me. Am I the jerk for asking her to quit her job? First off, why is she out with her boss at 4 a.m.? Even if it was a situation where there's a group of people and then she, for a moment, was alone with her boss, why is she out so late with all these guys? 4 a.m. is pretty late. That's like hardcore partying hours when I'm assuming she probably has to work the next day, or at least some of them do since there's coworkers there. And he says that she frequently goes to after work dinners and drinks. So I don't know if this 4 a.m. thing is normal. It seems like the more obvious thing to do here is instead of trying to go after his wife, why doesn't he go straight to the boss? That seems like the more logical outcome since she is the one who, according to her, didn't engage anything and had to leave. So the boss is creating an uncomfortable work environment, but she seems like she likes her job so much she doesn't want to leave it. So I think that would probably make the most sense. But let me know what you guys think. Is he the jerk or not for asking his wife to quit her job after this whole situation? And what would you do? Am I the jerk for not taking my husband to my brother-in-law's funeral after he went against my sister's wishes? My sister's husband was sick for over 6 months. In the past couple months, he got worse. They have 2 kids, a 4-year-old nephew and a 6-year-old niece, and I agreed to take the kids in to look after them and help my sister focus on her husband. A week ago, I got a call at 6:50 from my sister crying, telling me her husband just passed away. It was so devastating. I was still in my bed when I got the news. I checked on the kids and they were asleep. I had to go see my sister and be with her. I asked my husband to keep an eye on the kids and warned him not to tell them about their father's passing till their mom got there and told them herself, in her own way, since she made me promise to wait till she told them herself. He nodded, but he said telling them the sooner the better. I told him it was none of his business and he needed to respect their mother's wish. He said I could go and he'd watch the kids. An hour later, my phone rang when I was with my sister, and it was my husband telling me to get home ASAP because the kids had a breakdown after he told them their father passed. I was dumbfounded and so mad and helpless. I asked why he told them, but I couldn't hear his reply because the kids were crying loudly in the background. Their mother heard and figured it out. She told me to drive her there and see them. I apologized for what my husband did, but she didn't respond. We got home and it was a mess. My heart sank seeing the kids crying for their dad like that. Their mom took them inside the room and shut the door. I lost it on my husband, and he said that he didn't want to say anything. He even made them breakfast, but when he heard the kids talk about what they were going to do when they see their dad soon, he felt the urge to tell them. I yelled at him for going against my sister's wishes. He apologized to my sister, but she said she doesn't want to see him because the kids stopped talking from their trauma. He wanted to go to the funeral, but I told him my sister doesn't want to see him and I'm respecting her wish. He got upset saying I excluded him from a family event, which was unfair and flat out petty. He said he couldn't help it, so I shouldn't hold him accountable because it just happened. But I felt ashamed and a major letdown for my sister because she stated her wishes and he didn't respect them. Am I the jerk for not taking my husband to my brother-in-law's funeral? I mean, in this case, I don't think anything matters other than the sister's wishes. It's hard enough to go through something like this just naturally on its own without somebody. So if she doesn't want him to be there, I think he should not be there. I mean, he doesn't even have to understand the reason. It's not his call in the situation. And he did directly go against this decision when it wasn't his decision to make, even though he said it just happened. So let me know what you guys think, jerk or not a jerk, and why. What would you do in this situation? Am I the jerk for getting a lock for my office door despite my husband's disapproval? I'm a 32-year-old female and my husband is a 36-year-old male. We have been married for 10 years and we have 2 kids. My husband is currently unemployed, but I recently started working from home in my office for 5 hours. Thing is, my husband would constantly barge into my office and interrupt my work over simple requests he could get done himself. My work is usually done with a group and we constantly have group meetings to discuss projects. Some of the husband's requests include stuff like, can you fix this issue on my phone? Can you get the kids ready while I take a shower? Can you watch the oven while I make this phone call? Complaining about the dishwasher, faucet, mixer, computer not working and ask me to stop working to get them fixed. He'd even send the kids in all the time for me to brush their hair or fix a zipper. I've talked to him about how this has been impacting my work. I already handle the chores when I'm not working, so I think 5 hours of work should be respected. He'd apologize and say he didn't know then to do it again and say it was spontaneously. 2 days ago, I had an important meeting and he barged in, interrupted my meeting, asking me to fix his tie because he was going out later. It was horrible in front of my colleagues and superiors. I bought a lock later and installed it. When my husband got home in the evening and saw it, he looked absolutely shocked. He asked what the lock was for, and I replied that because of him interrupting my work sessions, this was my only way. He sent the kids into the room and then argued, saying, I can't believe you want to act like the kids and I are not even here and lock us out like that. I argued I didn't appreciate how he disrespected my boundaries and thought the lock is the solution after I have exhausted all options. He pitched a fit saying the lock is not a good solution and expressed how hurt he was feeling. Imagine how the kids are going to feel when they see it. Then he went outside to smoke. He kept saying I should remove it. Am I the jerk? I mean, this lady is working from home. There should be no difference in her being at work, whether she's physically there or not. Really, she should be at work. In other words, inaccessible during this time. So it's kind of crazy that he doesn't seem to recognize that she is in a work situation. She can't do this. Some jobs just don't allow you to have any type of freedom, especially when you're on work calls and stuff like that. And it also might end up hurting her chances within the job more because they associate her as being unprofessional because of all of this. I think that if it was the other way around, he would see that this is obviously not okay to do. But let me know what you guys think. Is she the jerk for buying the lock and installing it on her door or not? And what would you do? Am I the jerk for admitting that my parents and niece are the reason that I left? I'm a 29-year-old male and I have a niece, 19-year-old female. And as the title says, she and my parents are a massive reason why I moved away. When she was a little kid, she was unbelievably disrespectful and downright mean. She would literally scream, yell. If no one was around, she would cuss at me, and occasionally she would do random stuff that she never would have done if my mother, her grandmother, or her parents were around. For example, she would spit, throw stuff, purposely spill stuff, and if I ever stopped her or told her to stop, she would run to grandma and tell her I was being mean and I would get in trouble. And if I didn't stop her, I would still get in trouble. A month before my 18th birthday, I told my parents that I wanted to visit New York City, and they said that was fine. We lived in South Carolina, if that matters, and my niece's birthday was 2 days before mine. 3 days before my birthday, and 2 before we were supposed to leave, I already got my bags packed and they saved up, booked the tickets, and we were ready to go. The next day, my parents informed me that we couldn't go because they had planned a huge surprise party for my niece, but they miscalculated or something, and it was a lot more expensive than they thought. If I remember correctly, it was about $6,000 for this party. So they used the money that they saved for the trip on the party. When I asked them why they couldn't just cancel it instead, they got mad. My dad said I was being an entitled brat, and my mom said I was being selfish for not wanting my niece to enjoy her special day. Well, they didn't cancel it, but instead moved it back by 2 days due to some kind of schedule mix-up. I was honestly tired of their bull, so I moved to New York and went to college there, and that's where I stayed, and now I'm an attorney with 2 amazing sons at 29 years old. About 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call from an uncle about a family reunion. It was a couple of days ago. I thought it would be nice for my sons to meet some of their family members. If I recall, the only people they know are the people who moved up to New York, which is a couple of my cousins and my younger brother. So we went, and when I saw my niece, she acted the same as she did before. Later in the evening, my aunt asked why I moved to New York, and my mother answered for me, saying that it was so I could go to college. I found it unbelievably amusing that she thought after all these years that was the reason. So I started laughing uncontrollably. My mother asked why I was laughing, so I told her that NYU wasn't one of the reasons why I left, and it was because they were crappy parents who loved and cared about their crappy granddaughter more than their own son. And my niece was and is still the perfect combination between a goblin, a brat, and a crap stain. My mother called me ungrateful, disrespectful, brat, and my brother and sister-in-law were pissed. I was a little pissed myself, so I just left. Am I the jerk? What would you do in this situation if after all these years, basically over a decade, from the 18th birthday to being 29 years old, coming back, and the main reason you left was because of your family, but they tried to brush it off like it didn't happen. Would you say anything different? Would you do anything different? I think that there's nothing wrong with what he did. I think that explaining the real reason why he left is fair. Clearly, this moment was very hurtful for him, where they spent $6,000. First of all, who can even spend $6,000 on a party? What are they doing? Buying ponies and clowns and bounce houses? I don't think that would even cost $6,000, but somehow they spent $6,000 on this party, which inevitably would cancel his trip to New York, so he ended up just going anyway and staying there. So is he the jerk or not? And what would you do? Am I the jerk for banning my niece from the house for throwing away all of my son's school supplies? I'm a 43-year-old male. I have a 15-year-old son named Kevin who started working a summer job for a while now. He managed to save up for a new laptop that he uses for his YouTube channel or gaming channel. I'm not quite sure. Anyways, so my niece, my wife's sister's daughter, Chloe, who's 19, visits us a lot to hang out with my older daughter, who's 18. Kevin spends his time in his room when he's not working or studying. He doesn't like when Chloe teases him all the time. It annoys him, and I brought this up with my wife, but she said that it's normal. Cousins teasing each other, nothing strange. Chloe saw Kevin's new laptop and wanted to borrow it for her project, but Kevin said no. His reason was that Chloe has a habit of ruining stuff and his laptop is relatively new, so it's normal that he feels overprotective of it. Chloe asked me if I could talk Kevin into giving her laptop for a few days, and I told her no means no, and she should just let it go. Well, yesterday, Chloe visited while I was out. I came home and found Kevin crying, saying Chloe took all of his school supplies from his room and left with them after he refused to let her go home with his laptop. I was infuriated. My wife said she didn't know Chloe took all of Kevin's school supplies with her. She must have hid them. I called my sister-in-law and told her to ask Chloe to bring everything she took back. She denied any of this happening, so I drove to my in-laws to get this settled. I confronted Chloe and she admitted to taking the supplies, but said Kevin had denied to let her take the laptop even after she offered him money, which made him a jerk in her eyes. I imagine she gave the supplies back since they were all Kevin's, but she said she dumped them somewhere on the way home when her boyfriend gave her a ride. I flipped out and shamed her for this attitude and said she's banned from my house until she could change her attitude and is willing to make it up for her cousin. My sister-in-law criticized my decision and called my wife, who said Chloe is a teenager acting out but shouldn't be banned from her aunt's house. I said no more discussing this, and my wife got upset, saying I went too far with the ban. She said she'll talk to Kevin, and if he agreed to forgive Chloe and let her to continue visit, then there's nothing I can do, since my daughter also wants her cousin in the house. Am I the jerk? Before you decide that, they added some additional info. So, my wife is the type who say we can't call family thieves or bullies. Point number 2. They told me, sister-in-law, that Chloe didn't steal, but more like Kevin was mad for how he treated her and was wanting to get back at him, but what's done is done. Point number 3, my older daughter also disagrees with me because she wants Chloe to be able to visit like always. And finally, point number 4, when I talked to Chloe about what she did, she had no problem nor shame explaining what she did and why she did it. In other words, she was unapologetic about her actions. Am I the jerk? I mean, this is strange. Why would any of this be okay? Why would it be okay for the cousin to take Kevin's laptop in any situation? I mean, what did she do? Beat him up? Or how did she even get the laptop from him? He is a few years younger, he's 15, but how could he end up in a situation where she just walks out of the room with the laptop? Or anyone really walks out of the room with a laptop, unless it was done in a sneaky way. Maybe he was in the kitchen or something. But this absolutely seems wrong that she would do this to begin with. But let me know what you guys think down below. What would you do in this situation? And is he the jerk for banning her from his house or not? Submit your own stories to be featured down below in the comments. Subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on by hitting that bell. And don't forget to drop a thumbs up.